Have you ever noticed a pattern with Disney movies? They tend to show many cultural backgrounds. This can be seen in Encanto, Lilo and Stitch, Coco, and many more. My name is Robert Wood, and today's topic is interpersonal communication in Coco. First, I will explain the plot, setting, cultural attitude of the movie. Then I would explain 4 interpersonal communication skills or definitions that I've chosen, and then we'll conclude the speech. The plot. Miguel is the main character, has a family that is anti-music, and primarily his grandma does not like music. He tries to steal a guitar from a burial site on Dia de Muertos. His actions result in him being sent to the land of the dead, and in order for him to come back to the land of the living, he needs to get a blessing from his family. But his family doesn't like music at all, and he's not willing to accept a blessing saying he cannot have music in his life anymore. So he goes on a search for his long-lost great-great-grandfather, which he believes is a famous musician, to get a blessing. The movie ends with him getting this blessing he needed, and he gets sent back to the land of the living with no conditions. Music will be allowed. The setting of the movie. This movie takes place in Mexico. No specific cities, towns. They really didn't mention anything specific in the movie. We just know that its origin is from Mexico. The cultural attitude of the movie. This movie is very, very culturally influenced. The movie is about Dia de Muertos. Dia de los Muertos, also known as Day of the Dead in English, is a tradition celebrated on November 1st and 2nd to remember those who have passed away. There are 4 key components in this tradition. They are earth, wind, light, and water. These may be arranged on different levels of the altar. The altar is where they would have pictures of their family members in order to remember them. That's how the movie explained it. Of course, it's a little fictional since it's a movie, but that's how the movie explains it. How does this tie to interpersonal communication? The first definition I've chosen is culture. Culture can be defined by our textbook as the ongoing negotiation of learned and patterned beliefs, values, attitudes, and behaviors. In this movie, the holiday Dia de los Muertos is being celebrated. Dia de los Muertos has Aztec roots and grew to be a Mexican tradition, though it's celebrated differently in many Latin American countries. Other parts of the celebration include going to church and going out for a family meal. Specifically in Mexico, they like to do it in parades. It could be going out for a family meal, as I already mentioned. Family get together, go to the altar together. It's very traditional. It could be done very different ways. Ideology of domination is the second definition I've chosen. Ideology of domination can be defined as the ideology that some people or groups will always have power over others. This can be seen in the movie as everybody listens to the grandmother in the land of the living, and everybody listens to the great-great-grandmother in the land of the dead. In the movie, it's a cultural bonding. It's not authoritative as the book defined it when I was reading it. It's a cultural bonding. For example, my family, my grandmother, I listen to her, but I'm not stuck as much because Mexican culture, you're very linked with your family. This can also be seen in the land of the dead with the great-great-grandmother, as I already said. She is the matriarch of the entire family. She's the starting of the entire family. It just kept going, the family tree. Everybody in the land of the dead has to answer to her. And that's the reason why Miguel did not get his blessing, because they were too scared to stand against her. Code switching. Code switching involves changing from one way of speaking to another, between or within interactions. This can be seen in Miguel's behavior. He manipulated several people throughout the movie in order to reach his end goal of going back home. History, past, present, future, dialect is the 4th I've chosen. The history, past, present, future dialect reminds us to understand that while current cultural conditions are important and that our actions now will inevitably affect our future, those conditions are not without a history, of course. In the movie, the great-great-grandfather of Miguel was murdered, and his wife had no idea. This led his wife to believe that he left the family to chase his musical career, which caused the hate for music in the family, and that influenced their cultural conditions. The movie is a great movie. I loved watching it. I even laughed. It was a great movie to watch. I've chosen culture, ideology of domination, code switching, and history, past, present, future dialect, because I believe these are great examples of interpersonal communication / intercultural communication that were shown in the movie. Coco is a lovely representation of the heartwarming tradition of Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, which celebrates and remembers family members who have passed on. My name is Robert Wood. This is the conclusion of my speech. Thank you for having me.